Hi, fashion dolls. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another new episode of Style by Stevie. Our very special guest today, fashion dolls, is an actor, artist, and educator, and he is a part of the cast of one of the most hottest, most anticipated, highly watched television series there is, and that is Talks with Myself by Roger Amius Jr. And I had the pleasure of interviewing Roger, Kenyon, some of the castmates of Talks with Myself. Excuse me over here for a minute. But happy Monday. It is Motivation Monday, May 19th. And today is also Malcolm X's birthday. So I think his words will be prevalent through everything that we are encountering right now in from this administration. We hit our goal. Friday was my 800th interview. We did an amazing girl talk. Shout outs to Nikila Nikki Brown and Hope Ellis. And hopefully my girl Ja Quay can be joining us in the next girl talk panel, which will be slated for next month, June. So make sure that you all are staying tuned. So hi, Pure Lux. Welcome if you're just coming in. Today I am feeling burgundy. I'm feeling plum. I am feeling a little bit of all of these things, my love. So let me go ahead and share this live with my very special guest. He is an artist. He is an educator. He is an actor. And I'm super excited to have him here in the dollhouse with me. He should be joining me pretty soon. But I'm feeling plum today. This is a fall color, but you know me. I don't like to follow the trends. I like to set my own. You know what I'm saying? So definitely go and check it out if you haven't. Today's look. This gown that I am wearing is absolutely gorgeous. And as you can see, I'm sitting down. The train is long. It's giving Carrie Bradshaw. So I'm super excited. Super excited for that. As a matter of fact, let me message my guest so that we can get him in here and we can get this conversation started. Fashion dolls. Shout outs to my brother K Tukes. K Tukes has a show slated for this week, so make sure you guys head on over and check out his platform as well too. Amazing conversation, and we've done a couple collabs together as well also. So again, thank you all so much. 800 episodes. Today is 801. So I'm super excited to continue the journey on with this platform. I want to continue to keep going until we hit 900, and then after 900, it'll be 1,000. Like I said, we'll be running toe to toe with Tamron Hall. All right. So without further ado, let's welcome our incredibly handsome, talented special guest. He is an artist. He is an educator. He is an actor. Without further ado, please welcome to the dollhouse, Daryl Dwayne.
Hopefully I'm connected. I'm up here
Hello,
trying to situate it.
hello.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Likewise. Let me see if I can get my little stand situated so you're not like right up in my grill. How is everything on your end?
I am doing wonderful, my love. I was just talking about my achievement I accomplished last week. 800 interviews. Again, you guys have been
Wow.
messaging me throughout the weekend about it. Thank you all so much for your love and your support. And if you missed the girl talk from last week, Friday, please make sure you all go and check it out. But we're here with our very special guest, Daryl Dwayne, and you guys might have seen him on Talks with Myself by Roger Amius Jr. And not only that, but just his community activism and the work that he has done. He has made a name for himself. He has established a name for himself, and we'll be getting into that and more. So, before we kick off this conversation, how has 2025 been for you so far?
Wow, that's a great start considering all the crazy that we've entered into with 2025 with our current leadership. But I will say that despite all of the uh, negativity and all of the pushback against people who look like you and me. I will say 2025 has been a great year creatively. I actually jump started this top of the year jumping back on stage for the first time in a long time. I've been in front of the camera for a while, as you know, on the Talks with Myself series and a few other projects that I'm working on. But to be back on, oh, I thought I had a sneeze. and pollen. So sorry about that.
Okay.
But yeah, to be to be back on the stage has been a definite win for me. I've truly enjoyed having that experience. I was actually cast in a play, The Colored Museum. Which was an amazing experience. I'm excited to be reprising that role as we do have a new performance date that it will be happening at Newark Symphony. So if you live in the Essex County or the New Jersey area, definitely come and check that out. But we'll be reprising it for the month of June, being that Juneteenth happens during the month of June. And so, what we want to do is we want to again acknowledge our history while also celebrating the journey of where we've come thus far. And so, this plays a great homage to being able to underscore the things that we've experienced, but in a way that can be a little more digestible for those who are unfamiliar with the struggles of Black and Brown folks. So I'm excited to be a part of that production. But 2025 has been a good year thus far, and of course, season six of Talks with Myself. So I'm excited about that.
Yes, and I've seen the trailers, the promo Roger put out, which we'll get into that. But before we get into that, you also, with mentioning the New York area, you are also one of the managers of the community engagement at the Newark Museum. And it is important what you're doing with making sure that, again, our voices are preserved and highlighted. I'm pretty sure you've seen the story with the Smithsonian Museum where African American artifacts were
Yeah,
removed via order from this particular administration
yeah,
being pulled out of the Smithsonian Museum. And we're seeing the Library of Congress, the woman that was ahead of the Library of Congress, all of these things that have preserved Black history and culture
yeah,
be erased. And we'll get into that as well too. But talks with myself, as you
yeah.
mentioned, season 6. Now your character is a villain. Your character is a villain on the show, and I interviewed your co-star Damien, and to see the exchange you two both had in season 5, where you came in the place with the
Yeah.
baseball bat, I can't give what happened away. You guys have to go and watch it for yourself. But what was it like filming that scene? Because I know you guys have so much love for each other. And you also went on Dev, shout outs to Dev
Mhm.
Martell, Dev in the Details, and you sort of talked about your characters as well on the show. But
Yes.
what was it like filming that scene with Damien?
So yeah, shout out to Damien and then the shout out to the entire Talks to Myself crew. I love my castmates. They are the bomb.com. I say that to say that when we're off camera, we're able to be our full free selves. And then when we go into character, they're very much tapped in, right? And so playing that role of Damien is tricky because I like Damien as a person, outside of the role, but then we are both like in this very toxic, as you sort of underscored, relationship. Like
Yeah,
clearly, and for those who watch the show, in the last season, you find out that I actually love Damien. That this toxic behavior that I'm presenting is because of that love. Ultimately, because Damien convinces my character to do a lot of things that he probably would not normally do. Because while he is a sociopath, so let's be very clear, I don't want to put all the blame on Damien's characters if he's the only ill-willed individual in this scenario. But my character is clearly a sociopath, but he's a sociopath in love. So for those who like the show, this might be another great conduit for you to sort of like peel the layers back and enjoy a series that is very different from the norm and what you may see on traditional television. But yeah, he's a sociopath, and the scene you're talking to specifically is a moment in both of their relationship where they're at a crossroads
right.
where typically Damien's character is really on the same page as my character Maurice. However, in this particular scenario or situation, Damien has fell really hard for the main character, which is played by Kenyon. And Kenyon is an amazing actor. If you aren't following him, definitely follow him. But Kenyon's character, he's obsessed, for lack of better words, and the toxic love that I have for my characters or my castmate Damien makes me want to sort of make that make sense in any way I can if that tracks. And so what I ultimately do is I convince myself that this I'm giving away some of the plot, but so this threesome, this situation, we converge on, right? That in this situation that I allow this situation to go down and it goes completely left. The person that I am in love with in this particular series is falls deeper in love with Kenyon's character, and wants nothing to do with me, even though the whole idea was his decision. So it's one of those things where it's like, you ever been taught? Well, I don't know. I don't want to put this on to you, the host, but for the audience watching, if you ever had a situation where someone approached you about a threesome, or you've seen these things on TV would play out where they like, let's do a threesome, and it's, if you love me, you'll do it, and then you do it, and then it ends up blowing up the marriage or relationship even more. That's ultimately what happens with this particular scene, and why the baseball bat, and why I'm attacking him in the at his job. So, really powerful scene, really difficult to play because this is, it's very anger filled, very intense, very hostile character that I take on as Maurice, who's the total opposite of who I am. But it's a lot of fun playing him because he does cause me to stretch. He makes me stretch as an actor, because he's a sociopath who happens to also be a rapist, who also happens to be physically and mentally abusive and just manipulative. And so you don't really see that dichotomy with a lot of shows scripted for black actors, especially when it's an all black cast, especially when it's a predominantly all black LGBTQIA cast. So for me, this is one of those, like, it's a win-win all the way around. So big shout out to our director Roger, who writes and directs the series.
And I told Damien this when we did our conversation and interview. I told him that Roger writes from a place, even Kenyon.
Yes.
I've interviewed half of the cast, from Kenyon
Yeah.
to Dev to Damien to Roger, the creator himself. I've had
Yeah.
also, oh my God, he was also on Finding Me, the Finding Me series as well, too.
Yes. Noel, is it Noel's character? On there's a few characters that crossed over from the Finding Me series
Greg,
to
Greg,
Greg.
yes,
Okay, yes,
Greg,
yes,
yes.
yes.
I've had Greg on the show as well. Oh my goodness. That's a question for you before I make my point. My brother K Tukes wants to know, what's your favorite episode that you've done that stands out to you? There have been so many that I could think of, but I'm gonna let you answer my brother's question.
That's a tricky one. I think I have two favorite episodes. And so my first episode that I love will probably be the introduction to Maurice. Because I sort of come out of nowhere. There's this scene where Damien's character is in love with Noel's character, and they have a whole situation. He's convinced Noel to add a third party, and surprise, surprise, I'm that third party, because as I stated, me and Damien's character clearly have a toxic relationship. But I liked the edginess of that scene. I like the forward thinking in that scene because again, those are relationship types you don't typically see played out on TV. Although there is a lot more to that character layout more than meets the eye. But I like that scene. But then my second scene, my most favorite scene, probably would be the finale, this last finale. If you aren't watching, you will have to watch season finale 5. There's a moment, so my character has never really showed vulnerability at all, right? Like if you look at me from season 3 to season 6, which is what we're about to go into, I'm very stoic. I'm very I act as if feelings don't matter. I act as if I don't have any feelings, and that, this is just the sex. It's all about the sex with me, and my character anyway. And in the season finale, you get to see me actually peel those layers back. So I really appreciated our director Roger like writing that in and allowing me to be vulnerable, like the whole tearing up at the train tracks and telling Damien's character that I was in love and that I loved him and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think for me was probably my most favorite scene because you've never seen my character vulnerable like that. And so I'll have to say season 5 finale. You gotta watch. I mean, there's so much going on. I mean, to the point where they close out the scene with me drinking and holding a bottle and a knife. Like, like I say all that to say, like, that was probably my most favorite scene because you're finally getting to the meat and potatoes of who Maurice is and why Maurice does what he does, what kind of makes him tick. And clearly, there are some abandonment issues there. There's some validation issues there. So that will probably be my favorite.
And I was just about to say that putting yourself into Maurice's shoes, the character's shoes, and then learning to separate the character away from the person. Like, what has been the reactions from people watch the show about your character, because I know your character is not loved. I was
Yeah,
upset. I'm like, okay, but I have to understand where this character is coming from. The
yeah,
trauma that this character has experienced, he is now taking on to other people and
yeah,
turning the heat all the way up by
yeah,
doing these things with Russell,
yeah,
Damien's character. So it all comes together. That person has experienced trauma, and
yeah,
now the cycle has continued on. You have
yeah,
to understand and see where the character is coming from too, to find out what makes this person so evil. Because
okay,
that was the first thing that came to my mind when we got introduced to
yeah,
you from
yeah,
Kenyon, when
yeah,
Kenyon was out on the park bench in one of the scenes,
yeah,
and you were sitting out having a conversation with Russell, Damien's character
yeah,
on the show, and you were talking about why do we do what we do,
yeah,
and you both were explaining like why is it coming from this
yeah,
place.
yeah.
So for you, that was going to be a question that I wanted to ask. Have what has been the responses from people about your character, and has
It's-
family seen the show?
So that's a real good question. So I'll answer both. So I will say that playing the role of Maurice, it's interesting because people see the series and then we do these panel talks. Like we just were a part of the LGBTQ film festival, the Newark Black Film. No, sorry, the Newark LGBTQ Film Festival. That was maybe about a week ago. And so we got, when we do moments or experiences like that, where we, they see the series or they are being introduced to the series, and then they meet the cast, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm scared of you. I don't know how to respond to you." And then when I'm talking, they're like, "But then when you got on the panel and you're talking, like you're totally not who you are." And for me, I always find it as a reprieve because I'm like, "Well, thank God, because my character is pretty horrible." And I see folks, I'm waving at the folks in the chat. And so my character is pretty horrible. And I say that to say, like, I'm glad that people, when they meet me in person, can totally see the separation of the two, and that this is just a character. However, I think the best way to answer the other part of that question is that hurt people, right? And unfortunately, my character, clearly there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm hoping that as the seasons continue to develop and continue to push forward, we'll get to the meat or the core of what makes my character Maurice tick. I do feel like in this new season that's about to come, season 6, we're going to dig deep into Damien's purview as to why he may be the way he is. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. I'm just going to say you need to watch, because it's going to get interesting. And when we talk about accountability, there's going to be a lot of shifts and who's at fault. And I think this is why Roger's writing is what it is, what makes it so dynamic, because he has this thing that he does in his writing where he not only invites the viewer to be a part of this world, but he also invites the
Yeah,
viewers to reflect. And so I think in this, we'll see a reflection process take place with all the characters and the role that they play and how they got to where they're at in this moment. We see some beautiful relationships blossoming in season at the end of season 5 into season 6. We see some new marriages happening at the end of season 5 into season 6. And so there are a lot of opportunities there for the story to grow. And we get introduced to some new characters as well. There is 2 new characters that joined the season and last season who also add this other layer of, not, I want to say naivete, but you can tell that their characters are pretty new to the LGBTQ world. As far as we call them baby gays, right? They're new to the scene. They're having their first experiences. And in the process, they are, in some cases, are like with my character. If you're watching, or if you watch season 5, one almost gets caught up in the horrors and the tragedies that happen with being new to a space where not everybody has the best intentions. So I say all that to say, um, it's interesting playing that character. People typically respond in a positive when they see me, even though they're scared initially, because they don't know how separate I am from the character itself. And then my family, so my mom has yet to watch. So I have to say my mom has yet to watch. I think my mom's a little nervous to watch, but everyone else, like my pops, I mean, well, let me just say this overarching: my mom, my dad, my sister, they're all super supportive. My extended family has definitely tapped in and watched episodes. Even my dad inquires, which it's, when you think about black fathers, again, the idea that black fathers are this one thing and then the reality
Yeah.
of who they are. So big shout out to black dads, because my black father is very supportive of everything that I do. And I know that's not always the case. And so I definitely want to shout out my pops, because again, our relationship has definitely tightened as I became an adult. And I think as you grow into becoming a man, you do see things a little more holistically than you do as a kid. So the relationship that I have been able to establish with him, I'm very, 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 very happy about that. So I just want to just again shout him out. But yeah, most of the family watches and supports. I think I'm rambling now, so I'm gonna pass it back to you.
No, no. That's what we wanted to know, and the viewers as well too. Like, what does family say about watching the show, and do they support? And that's key and critical
Yeah,
more than anything.
yeah.
But season six of Talks with Myself, what can we expect in one word? Because I know you can't give spoilers. That's why I'm just like, yep, because I know Roger is watching.
You know he probably
But
is. He is.
what would you say about your character in one word? What could we expect for this upcoming season?
One word. One word. Yeesh. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say lost. I feel like this season for Maurice is going to be a season of self discovery. And right now, as we move through season six, I think he's feeling lost. I think that's the best adjective to describe. Like, he thought he had this solid thing with Damien's character, because he thought Damien was just like him, and now he's finding that Damien is on his own journey and sort of detaching himself from him and saying and sort of thwart and blame. I mean, Maurice is very if you watch the series, Maurice is very assertive in making sure that Damien holds himself equally accountable for the things that he does, because there is a lot of back and forth with him trying to skirt the realities. I mean, out of the two of us, like, while my character is a sociopath, I haven't yet to commit murder, thank God. But his character has in the series, right? So it's these nuanced things that I think that Maurice is sort of coming to terms with, watching who he loves, Damien's character, like, sort of find his way, or or appear to be finding his way, and moving on without him. So I think he's going to be trying to really figure out in this new season, who is Maurice, who can he trust, and will his past horrors catch back up with him, right?
Mm.
Because just like my castmate Damien's past is now blown up in his face, and if you watch this season, or the show, I'm a part, I'm intertwined with some of that past. So I think this season six will sort of put a microscope on all of that. What happens when you pull everything out of the closet, when you dig the dead bodies up? What happens when people are faced with the reality of the decisions and the choices that they made?
And it all comes to fruition. Your past always catches up to you. To anybody who tries to run from it or escape it, it will always catch up to you. So I can't wait to see what this season is going to hold. And there's another question for you. What have you learned about yourself new that really surprises you, Daryl?
That is that is a great question. Thank you for that question. I see you, 85. I'm going to say new is how far I'm able to stretch myself as a actor, because I typically am drawn to characters that are more lovable and more rom-com ish, because those are the type of shows and series that I like to watch outside of horror, because that's my other genre. So for me, it's rom-com and horror. I know it sounds like very crazy, very two different lanes, but and don't put it together, rom-com horror, oh yes, sign me up. But this playing this role has definitely pushed me to look at myself through a different lens of, we think about ourselves. There's the saying, what nature versus what is it? Nature versus well, essentially the same as like learned behavior versus how you grow up, right? Like, what are the things that people pour into you? And so for me, I always think for me it's a reflection process, because I'm playing a character that's totally not me. So I have to dig deep and look into people who have lived a lifestyle like this, who have Thank you for that. Nurture, yes. Nurture versus nature, or yeah, but we're on the same track. But yes, but I always say I have to take myself out of the equation and think about people or individuals who sort of this is their everyday, right? You know,
Yeah.
sociopaths are very interesting because they have this nuanced thing in them where they can't feel um empathy, where empathy is hard for them to touch and to reach. And this is what makes them so dangerous because, you know, when most people will see someone get injured or hurt, you know, most people will feel sad. And for someone who's a sociopath, you know, it's very much like, glad it wasn't me, as opposed to, oh my God, how can I help? And so
Right.
I think for me, digging into, what a sociopath's mindset is, and then tapping into. I think this is something we don't talk enough about in Black communities. We have people in our families who we can derive inspiration from, and sadly, I do have a serial rapist in my family who's now serving out his time in prison, and having grown up with him because you know he's my father's brother. It was it's a very interesting thing because how he presents, which is what sociopaths do, how he presents, he comes across as the most charming, the most charismatic, very attractive, very everything going. He looks like he doesn't
They
look like anything
manipulate
like
you.
he is. Yeah, and so for me, I kind of use him as a model for this character because he presents in a way where he's very unalarming. Although there is when I it's funny as a kid, even though I wasn't aware of all the terror he was creating, there was or is this little thing in the back of my, you know, that's you know how they say the hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up when certain
Yep.
things, you know, happen. There was always this like something's a little off, but I can't put my finger on it. But you know, he's the cool uncle, he's the dope uncle, you know, he's the down with, you know, knows the current songs. You know, I just thought he was the cool uncle, and to find out that you know he was a serial rapist who you know had been doing this. To women for years. You know, it was a wake up. It was a shock. You know, and then to then sit in court and then see him deny it after you know they have the physical abuse. I mean, not physical abuse, but the physical evidence and the images. It's kind of just like you know, wow, you really are that far gone where you've done these things. You're looking at your the stuff that you've done and then you have yet you can't reconcile that you're like that wasn't me. So for me this character is a lot of that, like reconciling some of my family trauma, right, talking to my father and
Hmm.
looking at my uncle's case closely and how he moved and real time when I was with him versus what he did on paper when I'm looking at you know the incidences of where he
Yeah.
hurt other people. And so for me, it's been a journey of learning what does that mean and do you choose to be that way or is that something that just sort of befalls you? So the all of those thought processes I go through with this character because of course me being me I always want my character to be redeemed. I don't think there's a possibility for him to be redeemed, but I always jokingly joke no, I always jokingly joke with Roger, like, you know, is there any way for him to be redeemed? Like, you know, people aren't just one dimensional. And he often says, you know, you're right, he's not one dimensional, and we're going to show more layers of who he is and why he's the way he is. However,
Yeah.
redemption, I don't know if that's on the plate because he's a sociopath and it's like narcissists, you know, once they pass their teens, you can give them equip them with tools to be better, but they don't change. That's kind of who they are. Narcissists and sociopaths, after the age of 13, 16, they're stuck like that for life. So it's another wake up call for those who are parents. Be mindful of what your kids doing and how you pour into them because again, once they hit a certain age, you know, you what you put in there is what's going to come out. In some cases, it's permanent. You know, they can't refrain from the behavior.
And history always finds a way of repeating itself from generation to generation to that next uh, cycle in the
Yeah,
family. So that's how it goes.
yeah.
And my colleague Alvin said that I had a serial, because this is going on YouTube, Grapist and M in my family. So he was put to death several years ago. See, you want to break that generational curse. And I feel as though with these characters, highlighting these characters, it brings out people coming forward and saying, I've had that same experience in my family as well too. There are shows out here based
Yeah,
on that, like The Killer Next Door,
yeah,
and it's another one, Evil Lives Here. That's the name of it. Evil Lives Here.
yeah.
And you would never think that the person who was doing all of these crimes and hurting all of these
Nope.
people would be the person that they are today.
Exactly.
So
I
it's
mean, you
like
look
a
at some,
two-way mirror.
yeah.
Yeah.
You look at some of the serial killers in the past. I mean, one was a clown, right? And people loved him for the birthday
Gangster.
parties and didn't have any clue he was killing people and putting them in his basement. So you're absolutely right with that. I think the more we have conversations like this and the more we normalize, um, talking about problematic issues in our community, the faster and quicker we can heal. I know I've been a victim of trauma as far as sexual trauma is concerned. I'm a survivor as well. And I also lean into that as well with this particular character, even though my character is often imposing the trauma. But I go back to what that felt like in the midst of that, right? So I say all that to say, like, in our community, especially being black and brown, in the black and brown community, we do see traumas happen to us often, and we don't have the police to lean into. We don't have the justice system to rely on, and so we often lean into what we call either hood justice, or we push it down and we act like it never happened, right? So I feel like the more we're able to come to terms with these things, the better off we'll be, and we won't end up in scenarios like right now what's happening with that court case with Diddy, right? All of that is unfortunate. I'm very sorry that Cassie and those other women experienced those things, but shows like this allow us to be able to, again, talk about these things and talk about why consent matters. Talk about why being transparent matters about sexual partners and what you want and what you don't want. Because what ends up happening is you create a certain naivete for folks who are youth who are not equipped with the words or with the knowledge to be able to speak to those things, and they find themselves in adult situations or very adult situations that they are not able to combat or to free themselves of, simply because they just don't have the knowledge or they're not equipped. So shout out to you, because platforms like you also make it possible for us to talk about deep things while still being able to tap into the entertainment side of it, but also be able to peel the layers back as to why these things matter.
Absolutely. And I told Roger this when I interviewed him. I said, you talk about you talk conversations that get people in the black community as it pertains to sexuality, as it pertains to coming out, as it pertains to mental health. I mean, he has hit all of the checkpoints on the board from each one of his series, from Finding Me to Finding Me Truth to now Talks with Myself to Decalogue. He's done that. I
Yes,
said, you've opened the door. You were out. I was so busy giving him his flowers. I said, you were out when the time Noah's Ark was just starting to emerge. And other
absolutely.
shows like Cali and so many others that focus solely on LGBT
Yeah,
characters have now come to play.
yeah,
And of course, Pose. We can't forget Pose,
yeah,
but that's more so ballroom scene, ballroom
yeah,
culture. But
yeah,
these shows need to be seen.
yeah,
Our stories need to be told, and that is key and critical. And one thing I also told Roger is you've broke the mold. You've made people have these conversations that they don't want to have because, as you just said, in the
yeah,
black community, we tend to do what? Sweep it under the rug
yeah,
as it pertains to the whole conversation with Diddy. I haven't said a whole lot about it, but my heart goes to Cassie. My heart goes to all those other women and those men who are survivors, who have went through this trauma with this monster.
yeah,
Because it's going to be more and more revelations that'll be coming out because it's been pent up, it's been locked up for years. The same for R.
yeah,
Kelly. All of these people who have caused harm to our people, it needs to be out there. If a
yeah,
person is causing me trauma or pain, I am going to speak on
yeah,
it. So my hat goes off. And Cassie is doing this
yeah,
while she's pregnant. So it's
yeah.
not easy. It's not easy.
No. Yeah,
Oh my
again,
goodness.
I'm with you on that 100%, and I'm praying for her and the victims, or I should say, to your point, survivors, to all the survivors, because it is a heavy thing to push forward through, and then to have to relive those things in court. But I do hope that in this particular case, justice prevails, and those parties who enabled, as well as those who are guilty of supporting the behavior, or who were active in the behavior are handled by the justice systems in the way that they should.
Absolutely. And speaking, we're going to shift to a lighter topic here. We're in the conversation of justice.
Yeah,
You also are one of the managers at the Newark Art Museum, and I love what you're doing there, which is making sure that Black artists are highlighted.
yes,
Now, you are manager of the community engagement at the Newark Museum, and you did a highlight with PBS. So we saw you on PBS, and you
yeah,
were given an interview, and you were talking about the importance of Black art and Black culture.
yeah,
And what really ticked me off this year was seeing the Smithsonian Museum African American artifacts be removed via order from this
yeah,
administration. So
yeah.
that was a question that I wanted to ask you. How do you feel about it as someone who is working at the front
Yeah.
lines, making sure that Black artists are highlighted?
It's really disheartening to see that take place in this timeline. My family legacy comes from the civil rights. My entire family's from Birmingham, Alabama. So for me, my uncle, he marched with MLK. He marched with John Lewis. He's still very much alive, and has instilled a lot of his gems in me. And I have conversations with him, and those conversations, when we talk about the current political climate, is are tough, because he is what I would call very sad, and because he's like, we put all this time and this energy in the '60s, to fight for this, and and the '50s and the '70s to fight for the things you have accessible now, Daryl, and to see that we fast forward and someone just like that is able to sort of come in and erase our attempt. Let me say attempt, because you can't erase what's been done, but attempt to erase what is been established in the progress that we've made. One thing where me and him do talk often about is that you can't push or erase history. If anything, history shows you that you can't erase us. I look at how often, even as we have made advancements for people that look like us, we're finding out new pieces of history every single day about something that one of our ancestors has done that no one knew prior to that, right? I think about some of the, or not even some. I think about everything around us. What I guess what's most aggravating to me about the current administration and the pushback we're getting, as far as Black art and Black art spaces, is that you can't erase us because we're so embedded in everything that's America, right? So when you look at the TV, the cell phone that we're on, when you look at the stoplights that we drive through in traffic, all of those things were created and are made possible because of Black folks, right? They wouldn't exist without us. We think about heart transplants and all these modern marvels that we sort of benefit from, that we all benefit from, and to try to say you want to make it where you erase our history when you can't. If you erase our history, then you have to also erase all the things that we brought that made America, and I'm going to use air quotes, that made America great, right? So I say all that to say, without us there would be no this. And you can, while I'm very upset and disheartened by what's happening, I will say that during times like this is when community really needs to work together, to push forward together, to collaborate, because it's only through community that we're going to continue to be able to persevere and continue to fight, and make sure that we have visibility in all things. I say that to say that in the art space that I am in, that's been a part of my mission, to make sure that I'm at the largest museum in the entire state of New Jersey, or the largest museum in the entire state of New Jersey, and we are centered or anchored in one of the largest Black and brown populations city-wise. Like Newark is one of the blackest and brownest cities you'll find on the East Coast, and I say that to underscore that there's no way we can do art, anything within our space, without acknowledging the artists of color, locally and globally, right? So my goal and my initiative is always going to be representation, and not representation to the fault of where I suppress another group to shine or spotlight another. You don't have to suppress when both are great, right? When you shine, you shine on your own. Like the moon doesn't block out the sun. All it does is it borrows the sunlight and its rays to beam brighter. Because without the sun, the moon wouldn't shine, right? So I say that to say this is how you have to think about Black art and Black the black community. America is only shining or beaming when it's beaming because of the creative flow and efforts that black folks put into the pot that make this melting pot what it is. And it's through our efforts, it's through our Latin and our Latinx and how our Latino families' efforts, it's through our Asian and South Pacific folks' efforts that all of those creatives and us pouring what we pour into this pot is what makes America the sun, the ray of light that it is. And again, it can't shine without it. So when you suppress or attempt to suppress, I mean, I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure. We've seen it happen in the past, and we've also seen it. We've seen history repeat because people refuse to open up a book and just learn from it. This is where the history nerd in me kind of gets frustrated because we know that this won't work. It's not sustainable, and we also know that the more you push back against the thing in a negative way, the more that thing kind of thwarts it, or comes back harder. So I'm disheartened, but I'm not discouraged, and I'll leave it at that because I can go on and on about that topic. But I'm disheartened, but I'm not discouraged.
Alvin, if you're still here, I'll go on about it tonight because I have a lot to say. I'm very angry and upset, and I've held it in. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to read my brother K-Tube's comments. Don't worry, Daryl. You're going to see Miss Stevie and I collaborate more to spread informative and things bringing unified love to our community. Absolutely. And I've been collaborating with a lot of content creators lately that also do the same thing as myself, hosting platforms. So tonight I will be on Tit for Tat This and That's panel with my colleague Bubs the God. And we have Deshaun Stallings, who's another one. He's here. So yes, tonight you will see me let loose about how I really feel about what this administration has been going on. There's a lot of things that I can't say that I really want to say. So I'm being a lady and I'm keeping the seatbelt on right now. But I'm going to just say this. As Daryl said, you can't erase Black history and
Right.
replace it with your history. You
Right.
can't pull it out of the school and say we're going to make it patriotic and how he won the 2020 election when we all know that that is a lie. He did not win. Not even, he said he lost by a whisker. You didn't win at all, period. Case closed.
Exactly.
Um, Another thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to make your tradition of your history prominent in these
Yeah.
museums. So
Yeah.
instead of talking about Harriet Tubman, you would rather us learn about Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
You would rather us learn about General E. Lee.
Yeah. the failed the failed rapist slash failed wannabe world conqueror, and then even with General Lee, the failed general soldier who the South didn't win. The the Union won. So it's the idea that we rather put more energy into folks who weren't successful, and who wanted to keep us under repressive regimes, who really in this conversation, I would say, does not paint holistically the picture of what America says she wants to be. So why do we continue to try to attach ourselves or lift up these people to give them space to make them great? When in reality, their contributions don't benefit the greater good, right? To where we're at and to where we want to go. So to your point, yeah, like no matter how much you try to erase us, again, like just like the good book, just like the Bible, you can't erase what God has put into motion. So, and I do believe that God definitely has his hand on us, and that in that we always continue to thrive despite the oppression. My heart does go out to all of those who may be hurt during this time frame, who may feel the oppression a little more than others. But I will say this, and I'll say it again, that the only way through this is community. So we have to support each other, and as times may get more, unfortunately, may get worse before they get better. I think it's going to be community that we're going to need to lean into community to support one another. If your neighbor's hungry in this time frame because they lost their job, because their government programs have been cut, assist them. Do what you can. Like, we got to bring back those cookout vibes, those
Oh
rent
yeah.
parties back. We got to find ways as communities where we can support one another as we work through this. What probably will be a very difficult 4 years if um, if they can even survive their own 4 years because of all the chaos that they're creating. It might also self implode. So there's that. But I say that to say you're right. It's all about community, is it, and community leaders like yourself is what we need at the forefront in order to make those things possible and to keep us valuable.
And a big shout out goes to my brother Scott Valentine. Shout outs to you, brother. One thing that Scott told me when we had our conversation was keep speaking truth to power. And we definitely have to keep speaking truth to power and keep forming and organizing community, because that is key and that is critical to what we need right now more than ever, with them trying to erase this and erase that. When I saw that they tried to erase the contributions of Harriet Tubman,
Yeah.
and I think it was Jackie
Back.
Robinson. My bad, I was about to say Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson, when they tried to scrub all of their accolades off of the website, and then they replaced them. The reason why was because they got the backlash. So everything that they're doing now, some of the stuff that they're doing or attempting to do is not working as well as they think it is.
Mm.
It's not working because of the backlash that they're getting from their own constituents who voted for this.
Yeah.
And I would say this: learn your lesson from this. You voted against your own interest, and
Yeah.
now we all are having to pay the price. Elections have consequences.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we are in this boat with you.
Yeah.
So while hating the black person, hating the trans person, hating the drag queens, that's
Yeah.
all a distraction to distract you from what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Because if you, well, I'm trying to hold the seatbelt on, Daryl. I'm trying. It's
It sounds
hard.
like it's going to be a great combo later. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Like you're I would say 100% times 10 to the 10th power. Everything you just said. Everything you just said.
We definitely need to speak truth and make great changes to the world. Absolutely. And I love you too, brother. Thank you so much for encouraging me to keep using my platform to amplify my voice. Now people are hearing, they're coming in.
Yeah.
New faces that I'm seeing coming in each time I go live and do the platform here. I
Yeah.
see new faces. People are becoming more educated and aware, which is all I want to do is continue to educate. Now, I got the question, would I run for office?
Yeah.
I I would be one petty bitch for sure. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you why. To the red states, to the ones that voted against this well qualified, beautiful woman, yeah,
Yeah.
you would suffer. And I'm in there.
That's a
So yeah,
and that's a very valid point you brought up earlier about voting against your one's own interest, because there were a sprinkling, not a lot, because we were the 92%, but there was a sprinkling that from our communities who did vote against their own interest, specifically double down. And to those, or to not even just to those folks, but to the world at large, especially those who love to say, "Well, I'm not really into politics." I just want to leave you with this thought. While you may not be into politics, politics is very much into you.
and to you,
So whether or not you see yourself as someone who knows all the issues and knows what's going on in current political circles, you don't need to know all of that to know who, or to do a little research to find out who is going to directly impact you and your well-being and your family's well-being and people who look like you. And so I say all that to say, like, it's important that we stay mindful and very intentional on what we consume, and making sure that if it's something that has us feeling a way, like we found it on TikTok, we scrolled against it on TikTok, we found it on Instagram's reels, that we do some research and make sure that what we're looking at is actually the reality and not some propaganda piece that was puffed out by the adversarial political spaces to make you double down on bad decisions. I will always say look at the history of a thing, and that will tell you who and what they are about.
absolutely. I love that you continue to do what you love. I get to watch you as a proud big brother. Thank you, Scott. And you've been there encouraging me every step of the way. If not you, then Alvin, Bubs. It's like, again, that circle of people who've been there, who've experienced it. And I'm
Community.
thankful for my circle of people and community of creators who are also backing me, and we're supporting each other, vice versa. So
Yeah.
there is no competition. There's more than enough room for each and every one of us to shine at the top. And that's what I love about this community of people that are backing me 100%. But I'll also say this: we need to go back, as Daryl said, we need to go back to throwing cookouts. And I say we could throw a cookout in front of a certain plantation that just burned down. I know our ancestors are proud.
I, I'm saying look, I got the fixings. If we go pile them up in the car, let's do it. Like have a rotisserie.
Love it so much. I know you guys were messaging me over the weekend, sending me the videos and things. Miss Stevie, look. Yes, I've seen it. I've seen the videos of the plantation burning down. But I'm going to say this: our ancestors are very, very proud.
Yeah,
And I love you too, brother. I love all of y'all. Y'all have been, again, that support system, that circle that we all need.
yeah,
And that's what we have to do. Make sure that we are reaching out and checking on one another because that's key and critical, especially with everything that is going on. Where we're in a
yes,
time of our lives, it is literally where the government should be helping us. It is now us versus the person who's in the White House. And this has
yes.
never happened. This is not normal. So,
And you know
again,
it's critical when 60% of Americans can't afford to live in America. I actually saw that on the CNN report just this past week, and I think that's again just says it all, right? Like you have a country where over half of your population can't afford to actually live and eat comfortably. I think that says a lot about the climate and the state of the world when your constituents are and this is just your first 100 plus days in office. Like I think it says a lot that 60% of the population of America cannot comfortably afford to eat and live in the country that their ancestors and their families built.
and now some of their funds are going towards these white South Africans that just came. I'm gonna hold off.
Yeah.
Mm, Alvin, I'm gonna hold
Well, it
off.
looks like
I'm
tonight's chat's going to be lit. I can see now. I can see now. It's going to be lit.
I, I told Alvin in the chat earlier. I told Alvin and the guys in the chat earlier. I said I am going to tear into him tonight. I'm not going to leave any crumbs. He will be finished by the time I'm finished doing what I got to do on that panel tonight. So you guys just have to tune in, tit for tat, this for that, this and that. Make sure you guys check it out and tune into it. But I'm holding back. I've given my thoughts and observations, and check out last week's Girl Talk. Positive spaces are only limited because positivity, consumption have become a thing of the past. Negativity has become more general, right? And I must say that the beautiful thing about him that he's only done is highlighted the darkness that people have in their hearts towards us as black people in this country. Now we know how we actually see us when we're not in the room,
Yeah,
how you actually feel about us when we're not in the room, what you actually want to say to us
yeah,
if we were in the room.
yeah. And this is again why shows like what we're doing matter. Talks to myself. This is why platforms like this and what we're doing right now matter. This is why again representation matters because that's the only way you push back against ignorance is to show up and to show up as your full self and create a space that gives permission for others to show up as their full selves. I think often about there was a study because y'all know I'm a nerd that was talking about how introverts and extroverts move and how some people have this misconception of who what side of the spectrum they're on when they highlighted they did a study where essentially most people are actually more likely to uh, step out of the box if they are encouraged by someone else and they did this study using dancing going to spaces where people are dancing and using a person where there was like so there's no one on the dance floor and then one person steps out on the dance floor and that one person who everybody kind of looks at kind of crazy at first and like what's it doing ultimately gets another and then another and then another and before you know it now everyone's on the dance floor dancing in unison and in harmony with one another and I thought that was a great depiction of what real world and real life situations are like right often no one wants to be the first person to step out there and feel like they're going to look at me crazy they're going to whisper about me they're going to not accept me. This is very true, very, very true. But the reality is, what you're doing by doing what you're doing is you're giving permission for others to step up and to step out. So before you know it, while you may have started on this journey alone, you before the journey ends, you won't be alone. And I think that's the thing we have to remind ourselves as we persevere. And even as you're on your panel this evening, like you may be the loudest voice on that panel saying this isn't right, but you standing there, and even if you are the only one, gives others permission to be able to stand there and back you. So again, just a lot of love for you, Stevie, for doing this. Thank you, Miss Stevie, for creating platforms like this, and for shows like Talks for Myself that do spotlight the LGBTQ community to have a space to be able to amplify what we do. I often say if one of us is being oppressed, then all of us are being oppressed. So I think the entire LGBTQ community, we have to look at this and support one another by any means necessary. Because again, once they get rid of one piece of our beautiful tapestry, then they start pulling the threads and everything else, and we can't let that happen.
And they what one thing that one of my colleagues, Deshaun, also told me that they took the T off of Stonewall. And who do we know who is key on Stonewall? It was Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia
Yeah.
Ramirez. They want to remove the
Wow.
T off of Stonewall.
That's
So
wild.
you're from the military being purged to,
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna wait for tonight. I'm gonna wait because I'm gonna tear him up. He's been showing out. What has become more disheartening is when we become gatekeepers and spokesmen and dismantling our own people and communities. And I just seen a story where the woman who was Florida University, Florida A&M University, who has ties to Ron DeSantis in Florida.
Mm, mm,
I said this Friday when I was asked about how do I feel about Candace Owens.
mm,
Lord, I'm gonna hold off tonight. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna be a lady today.
yeah.
I can be savage. I can be the pit bull in the skirt when need be, but I'm gonna be a lady today. And then tonight the savagery will come out. So Alvin, you got it. But I'm gonna just say this: if you being in these spaces, yes, they see you, but you're also one of us as well too. And
Yeah.
you are the token piece for white supremacy.
Yeah.
You have become the token piece for that. So how could you sell your own people out?
Yeah.
Come on, sister, I'm invested now. Tear them up. Sky knows me. Sky was on the panel with me before, so I'm not. I'm hold off tonight. It's y'all seen Boo Medea's Halloween and the scene when she walks in the church and the preacher was like, no, she's like, I can't curse in church. I can't say what I want to say. So bad. That is me right now. I'm trying to bite my tongue so bad. So I'm having to put the seatbelt on because not everybody, But yes, like I was saying though, tonight I'll tear into him tonight because he's been doing a lot from the tweets about Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen and
Yeah.
how they helped, what they did in the election was illegal. They didn't do anything but supported the right candidate.
Yeah.
So
You're on the right side of this. Yeah. Yeah.
what are you going after Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen for? And this is not the first time he went after Bruce Springsteen. He tweeted on Truth Social about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just every day after day, headline after headline. I'm
And you
hold
have to
off.
think to yourself, how miserable can you be when your whole life revolves around being upset that other people are just being happy to represent who they are. Like you have to really think about like you spend all this time tweeting and frustration over people just existing and living. Like that's that's a different that's a different level of like of sick when you really peel the layers back because you're that obsessed, you're that distraught, you're that uh bothered. Like that's there. That's heavy. And like I said, that's a new level of sick. For to harass Bruce Springsteen and the Beyonce when they're just outside living and speaking truth to power. And you have a whole country you should be taking care of. How or why are we in the midst of what particular performer is saying? But to your point, racism is what it is, and then it's unfortunate, and you can't erase us. We'll just put, because I'm sure you're going to get into all of this later this evening, but you can't erase us.
Uh, Taylor Swift is another person he went after.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be happy. You got Kid Rock, you got Zachary Levi, you got Vinny from Jersey Shore, you got all of these people who, hell, you Snoop Dogg, all of them went and performed at your crypto event.
Mhm.
So I mean, you should be happy.
Yeah. Facts. One
Be
would think.
happy that you got them. But tonight I'm gonna tear his ass up. Literally, he's been showing up. I'm holding off now, but tonight on Alvin's panel, I got him. So don't y'all worry. The pain that I've kind of tore him to him last week too in the girl talk. If you guys missed it then, so y'all make sure y'all go and check that out also. But we're gonna shift gears here, Fashion Dolls. We're going to take some questions from the audience. Do you guys have any questions for myself or Daryl here? Talks with Myself, season 6. You guys need to
Yes.
go and check out this show. Again, we need more and more shows that showcase LGBT representation. And it is key, and these times more than ever, when they're trying to erase us, where we see what they're doing with the military from banning trans people.
Yeah.
You can't do this if it's considered DEI. We
Yeah.
see them pulling books. It was a man who checked out 100 books and
Right.
burned all of those books.
Yeah.
When I seen that story, I thought this is reminiscent of what they did in Germany with Hitler, how they
Yeah.
burned books on Jews and the Holocaust. The same exact thing, very parallel.
Yeah. And even how they came for the LGBTQIA community first. Literally, we're literally watching. I mean, again, I told you I'm a history nerd. Working for a museum does help, but we're seeing history repeat, like the same exact way that Germany and the neo Nazis did what they did is exactly the same approach that the white nationalists and the current MAGA constituents or population is approaching America with attacking the LGBTQIA communities, and then the idea of suppressing information and are burning books. Because again, we all know the less informed the population is, the easier they are to control. And so we see the playbook being rehashed, and the fact that there's so many enablers for me, I think is the more frustrating part because as we learn, most of these initiatives don't directly impact us as negatively as they do their own. I look at DEI, the major benefits, the major benefactors of the DEI program were white women. And so the same white women that
Affirmative
are standing by their
action
men,
too.
right,
Affirmative
affirmative,
action.
exactly, affirmative action too. And the same white women that are standing by their, racist husbands are, cheering for it, unaware that they're also cutting themselves off at the knees as well because now they're being fired. Like I've seen so many TikToks where female government employees have been let go and they've said they voted for that particular individual. So it just again just goes back to the reality of stay informed, tap into your community, and use the resources around you. If you have a question about a thing or if your political stance or your worldview stance was this was the right thing to do, and then you're seeing something that contradicts that, inquire from your peers. Am I what I see in my reading? Is that factual? Inquire from your peers. Is this truth or does this erase what this on the other hand what they've been standing for, what they've been doing, because all of those things do matter and people aren't it's just like situations aren't black and white, but at the end of the day we all deserve to exist. So I think if nothing else, that's the big thing you walk away from. Any person that's telling you that someone doesn't exist or shouldn't exist, you need to check that person and come into the realization that that person has a them problem, not a us problem. That problem that they have with other folks has more to do with their own self hatred than it does with any person that they deem not worthy to be in existence or to be able to represent. So again, I'm gonna just applaud you again for creating spaces like this to be able to talk about this along with the show, talks with myself, and just again showing up for the black community in general.
Absolutely. Let me read some of you guys' comments. We have to stay blessed up. Exactly, King David. What did I say last week with the girls when I did my girl talk? I said that Black people, we have to continue to find our joy. We've been through so much despair pain, suffering. They want us to be down.
Yeah.
They see us out here doing the boots on the ground dance. They see us out here living our best lives. And joy and rest is a form of resistance where
Yeah.
we would take to the streets and we would follow our ancestors. Today is also Malcolm X's birthday.
Yeah.
So I think that his words rang true to everything that is prevalent because he was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And if you have to be a truth teller, you have to speak truth to power.
Yeah.
Trump has never been political, but more so radical, which is why white conservatives love him. They needed someone who simply has no class. And speaking of class, and what Daryl just said,
Mhm.
he loves the poorly educated. And he sat on stage and he said that.
Yeah.
He loves the poorly educated.
Yeah.
So, them putting Black people out of colleges and universities, rolling back DEI stances, all of that, they love that. And
Mhm.
shout outs to not just myself, but Don Lemon, who asked these voters, what do you think would happen if Donald Trump gets a third term? What do you think about that? And one of them said, you know what? Give him a third term. I think he's doing well his first 100 days.
Wow. Yeah.
So if an election was held tomorrow, we know what they would do when they go to those voting booths. But again, I'm holding off tonight. I'm being reserved. So you'll find out tonight, y'all. Question for both of you. If there's anything you would want to change, what would it be? How would you go about changing? And that is from King David.
That's a great question. I'm not sure if you wanted to go first. I'm not sure what's. I'm curious on in context what to change. Are we talking about the world in general? Are we talking about something about ourselves personally? I'm not sure specifically which piece to hone into. But if you have an answer already, Miss Stevie, feel free to jump in and I'll follow your lead.
Which one, King David? Are you talking about ourselves or the world? Which one? Because you know this girl here has no problem with changing her hair, her looks, if that's what type of change you're talking about. But if you're talking about changing the world, I would say I would want more and more people to speak out. From that aspect, more and more people to speak out. Now is the time more than ever because each and every day we stay quiet or sit on the sidelines, we inch just enough
Yeah.
towards fascism because that's
Yeah.
exactly what this is. This is not a normal presidency, as you would say. That is not a president, that is a dictator in the office. And it's time that we start using the language of what he is.
I would agree with you there, Miss Stevie, and I think that um, to add to what you just said, I would like for the if I could change the world, I would like for all humans to work from a mental space of abundance instead of scarcity. I feel like that's the bigger problem we have with capitalism, which capitalism is birthed from racism,
Yeah,
and we this idea that I have to be better than or outshine my brother or my sister in order to be important. I think if we work from that's some scarcity mindset. I don't know if we're aware of that. Some people aren't. Some people think that that's hustle and pushing it to the limit. That's boss mentality. And while yes, there is some boss like qualities in wanting to have more for yourself and to build up wealth for
yeah,
your family, the idea that I don't have to step on your toes to make myself better or to make myself bigger should also be in place because if you really look at again history, you look at people, the more collaborative we are, the more money we make. The more minds you bring into a think tank, the bigger and brighter the ideas. The more inclusive you are with the space, the more diverse audience you're able to service. I look at things like Savage Fenty. The reason Savage Fenty excels is because it is inclusive of all body types. It's an inclusive of all differently abled individuals and is inclusive of all races and creeds. So Rihanna's been able to grow that business into a multi-billion-dollar business because it's inclusive. I think about Apple. Apple refuses to push back against the DEI initiatives because they see the profitability in having diverse voices, diverse ways of thinking and approaching problems. Even in science, it says that women historically are better scientists than men, even though the scientist world is predominantly ran by men, but the reason women make better scientists is because they work better under pressure, and that's just based on DNA. Because women have to deal with this thing called the menstrual, and that menstrual cycle actually does directly impact how they deal with stress on a day-to-day basis, and that tolerance, that constant endurance of being able to deal with high stress levels and still being able to go about your day makes them better in spaces like the laboratories and in the math labs and in doctor spaces and hospital spaces. So I think again that idea that diversity and the idea of include, like, if we work from that mindset of abundance, like having more people on my set is going to make me better as long as they're all putting their best efforts in, then the less likely we are to see what we're seeing now, which is the sense of erasure. Like, I have to erase your history to make my history more important. I have to erase your identity to make my identity more important, when in reality, if we just can converge, we can actually see that both are great and that what both are bringing is of quality and of substance, and we can benefit from each other. So that's my change the world speech in soapbox.
Absolutely. And I second that notion. I
Yes,
second that as well too. That's what we can do to move forward and change the world. And again, make sure that your voices are being amplified. That's one thing she stressed on the campaign trail. Never let anybody take your voice. At first I was scared, yes, but it brought out something else in me, a fighter, to be able to advocate for other people as well too, and the ones who are afraid to speak up, like myself. So hopefully
yeah,
my voice and me using my platform can encourage more and more people to continue to keep speaking out. And we're seeing people speak out and push back. Us,
yeah,
people, regular people like us, showing up to these hearings,
yeah.
being pulled out, after protesting or whatever, interrupting. You have to cause a disruption in order for something to happen. In order for change to happen, you have to cause a disruption. And
Agreed,
as
agreed.
the late John Lewis would say, you have to be the good kind of trouble.
Yeah, let's get into it. Good trouble. Yep.
Absolutely. So I want you all to take away from that. And I hope that helps on what we can do to move forward. But the rest I'll save for tonight. So you have to stay tuned. But it is now time for our games, Fashion Dolls. Before we wrap, and then we will take some questions, comments, and whatever you want to know at the end, Fashion Dolls. So the first one we do is called the Rapid Five. And Daryl has to tell me five things that he can't live without. It can be your favorite drink, your favorite go-to artist you love to listen to, whatever you love. That is in your guilty pleasure box.
Ooh.
And then the next one we're going to do is called Turn the Tables. And this is where my guests get to ask me as many questions as they want to know. And for the newest viewers out there, you get to know a little bit about me through Daryl's questioning. I have no clue what he's going to ask me. So we're going to start off with the rapid fire first. What are five of Daryl's guilty pleasures?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So I guess five guilty pleasures that I feel like I can't live without. Well, I am not a big sweets person at all, but there is one dessert that I feel like I can't live without, which is ice cream. I am like a diehard ice cream fanatic. I don't know what it is about ice cream, but I love it. So I feel like I definitely can live without ice cream. I am from the South, and this is probably real country of me to say, but I feel as if I can't live without chicken. I feel like I'm leaning into foods because those are my vices as well. If you can't tell, it's my guilty pleasures. Like, we're always battling the scale, right? But like chicken, I feel like there's so many things you can do with it, and it tastes good and everything. Like, yeah. Like, so for me, like, ice cream and chicken are two of my food vices that I can't live without. As far as uh other vices, I mean, I don't say vices, like, 'cause let's not say it's not a bad thing unless you overindulge. So, five other pleasures that I feel like I can't live without. Um, I would definitely have to say I love roller coasters and theme parks. So, like, I feel like I need a good theme park in my life. That's my escape. So between theme parks and horror movies, so that's number four. I feel like I need those things in order to like reset and decompress. So obviously, I'm not going to a theme park every single day, so horror movies are how I decompress after work. And let's see. I guess to the early point, I guess rom coms. Like I feel like I need my love stories. I need that balance of like, when I watch Grey's Anatomy, don't judge me, y'all. But when I watch Grey's Anatomy, like I be in my feels. It's the one show that every now and then it'll get a little tear jerk. I'm like, that's Shonda Rhimes every single time. Kind of gets me. It makes me appreciate the things that I have. That I take for granted because I'm watching someone battle cancer on this series, or I'm watching someone
Yeah.
who has to get their leg amputated unexpectedly because of a weird infection. It's those moments where you're just like, you know what, I'm crying about, not being able to go out to the club this weekend because I don't have enough money, when there's bigger things happening in the world, right? So I would have to say my rom-com-ish television and our movies are my other guilty pleasure that I feel like I can't live without. But I guess if we're reversing tables, I'm asking you several questions now, Miss Stevie.
Yes, it is time to turn. All
All right.
right. So how
So
does this?
I guess my first question for you would be, and I see you in the chat, so I'm happy to hear that. Me too. But I am going to ask you, Miss Stevie, what inspired you to start this platform? Because to your point earlier, you said that you were afraid in the beginning to speak out and use your voice, but here we
Yeah.
are now. What was the catalyst for you to say, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I don't care what anybody says or thinks?
I started right after high school. And I came in without a vision. It was called Weekdays Topics. We would do it at 11 a.m. every day on Facebook Live. We'd just be talking about pop culture, what's going on in the world.
Yeah,
And I did not know anything, how to host a platform, how to do anything. But I guess you sort of train yourself over time.
yeah,
And then I said, let's do something different. Let's add interviews to it. So I would say around the first or second quarter, I started adding guest interviews. I had friends who were music artists and actors, and I'm just like, they need a platform to launch and promote their projects. Why
yeah,
not give back to them and let them have a place where they can promote their projects that they're working on, you
yeah.
know? And they can also be seen, they can be included. They have someone who looks like them that is doing it, but they can also be included in the process as well too of telling their stories. Because we see other platforms out here. We see the Roland Martins of the world, but there's got to be something funky, something fresh, something revolutionary that has never been done. And how I do it is I combine fashion, beauty, and humor together. And that's what I think draws people in because it's different. Nobody's ever done it. How I merge all of the topics together. That is what the thing is. So that was the catalyst for me. And then we years later changed the name to Style by Stevie. I said, no, it can't just be weekdays topics. Like that sounds like something you would watch on E News.
Yeah.
It's got to be catchy.
Yeah.
Style by Stevie, because I make a stance to always be in vogue or in style or ahead of the current fashion or beauty trends. Because again, with me, I always change my look. I don't stay the same. Your co-star Kenyon can vouch for that. He said, "What hair is she going to give me today?" And I came in with this platinum blonde, long stones, crystal everywhere. He was like, "What
Yes.
hair is she going to give me today?" I said, "I have to come do something different. I'm
Yeah.
always changing my look."
Yeah.
And it shocks people because they don't never know what they're going to get. So that's one of the factors. Another one of the factors, I do it in a way where it's fun, where it's humorous. The topics are heavy, yes, but I also want people to know that you can breathe a sigh of relief. The topics I'm covering are heavy, but they're fun and you'll laugh and you get a kick out of them. And you'll also get some thought, food for thought at the end of the day as well, too, not just from myself, but from my guests.
I
So
love that. I love that. So then that leads me to my next question. Since you highlighted style and you talked about style being a big part of not only your platform but who you are and your brand identity. Uh, when you think about style, or my question to you in regards to style, we are moving in a different space now, right? Where luxury goods may not be as easily accessible. So my question to you is, for our audience, viewing audience, because people often need a stylist and they don't know how to go about it, so they can get this free advice from you. But your top four, right? So I would like it if you can give me two high end designers that you live and stand by and why, and then two what we would call low end, brand design houses, whether that's fast fashion or just general retail fashion, where you can mix these two things together, where you have like a high low scenario happening. Who are your top four? Brands or designers that you would lean into, two that are high end and two that are like ready to wear um, uh, fast fashion brands. Who are those and why?
Oh my goodness. The first two I would say would have to be Valentino. It is something classic about Valentino. If not Valentino, then Saint Laurent. And I love Saint Laurent. I mean, it was between Saint Laurent or Mugler. I love Terry Mugler
Yeah,
and the '90s Mugler, whereas
yeah, yeah.
the models would come out with, I mean, almost like insects. And our girl Laverne
Extraterrestrials.
Cox
Yeah.
has some of the archival pieces. She has a whole room dedicated with some of the archival pieces. Y'all need to go and check it
Yeah.
out. She posts a new look every day, and Miley Cyrus reworn some of the pieces in her latest music videos. So to see how much of an impact. But I'm going to go with Saint Laurent and Armani because
Okay.
Armani knows how to make the black dress classic. I just love classic, like the gown that I'm wearing today, classic. So I'm going to go with Armani and Saint Laurent. And as far as fast fashion, I would say Fashion Nova. I love Fashion Nova. Everybody shops at Fashion
Yeah.
Nova. And surprise, half of the pieces that I wear here on the show are Fashion Nova. You would thought a designer actually designed
Yeah.
those. Ha ha. Gotcha. Yes.
Love
But
that.
even
Love
the
that.
feather one that I wore last week when I did my interview with Olga If that so many people were talking about when the feathers, it was very, how can I, that was a nod to Josephine Baker. That
Oh,
was a nod to
nice.
Josephine Baker
Yeah.
and Mugler, Spring, Summer 94. And I posted the inspiration at the end of that interview. So it's up there. You guys have to go and take a look at it. But another fast fashion house, I would say, oh, besides Fashion Nova, shop Akira. Akira's pieces, very sexy.
Okay.
I love it. The same for Fashion Nova, very sexy. But a lot of the stuff that I wear is Fashion
Yeah.
Nova. So now you
Yes.
know the secret is out. You can look high fashion, and
Yeah.
when I present myself and I come on, you would think a designer made it. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
Fashion Nova. And I order
And
in bulk, not just myself, but our girl T.S. Madison, and she will let you know, hey, I ordered this in bulk. So I order at least 15 to 20 pieces
yeah,
when I'm doing
which
my
is which
one.
which is
Yes.
which is important because the community, I think, again, we need to know that, right? Because to what we talked about earlier, we just, black folks, we're not gonna let one thing we're not gonna let happen is our style and our sense of swagger be oppressed simply because the climate of the world says we should be oppressed. I look back at the 60s, the 50s, and how stylish we were, and even this past Met Gala ball,
Black
how it was
Candy.
centered around, right, around our fashion and our styling prowess. So I say that to say it's important. Those fast fashion brands matter just as much as those high end brands. And if nothing else, China has definitely schooled us about a lot of those high end brands and how a lot of them are made in the same spaces in the beginning before they shipped off. So with that being said, I appreciate you answering that question. I guess I'll hit you with one final question before
Yes.
before I give you back the microphone and turn it back over to you. My final question would be, um, in let's say 10 years from now, where do you imagine this platform, excelling to? Or do you imagine this being a totally what is your vision for the Stevie brand 10 years from now? Miss Stevie's brand for 10 years from now.
Um, I want to follow in Madison's footsteps. Madison has fragrance. She's on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Right.
Um, what I would see with myself is stepping behind the director's lens, sort of like Madison and how Roger are doing.
Yeah.
Again, more and more of our stories need to be told. I mean, we've got Patrick Ian Polk, Noah's Ark. We've got Roger, Talks with Myself. T.S. Madison was the first black trans woman to have her show mainstream.
Yeah.
WeTV picked it up. And
Yeah.
they've been working on that for years,
Yeah.
she said in an interview.
Yeah.
So I want to follow in their footsteps and produce and be behind the lens. Yes, you see my face, you see my pretty face every day when I go live, but I want to be behind the lens as well too.
Right.
So another thing, the fragrance aspect. I want to tap into the beauty world. I see that Drew Barrymore, she has products, she has a magazine, she's got uh home utensils, cooking, toast ovens, all of that. That's what I would
Mhm.
see myself with my brand.
Yeah.
I would love to see myself in stores.
Yeah.
That's what's next for me in the future. Podcasts. A lot of people are like, we're going to do in person shows. King David, I know you're still watching. Yes, in person shows, because a lot of people want to be able to experience me in person versus how we're doing the interviews now, which is virtually. So that's what's next. More and more writing for the publication that I write for, Original Magazine UK. More and more Style by Stevie. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, not slowing up. We just reached 800 interviews. So more and more, we're going to keep it going. The journey's going to keep going. Uh, Season 20, 2026. I haven't even thought it out thoroughly yet of what I want, the design to look like, what I want the fashions to look like, any of that. So, yeah, that's what I see in the future and the horizon for myself.
Love that. Those are great answers. So thank you for again being vulnerable with us, just as you're asking us to be with you. So in that in that regard, I'm going to pass the microphone, the host microphone, back to you.
Yes. And King David said, "You already know, Miss Stevie. I was going to ask again." That's what I keep getting. Everybody wants to be able to experience me in person because someone, when I interviewed them, they said, "You have such a powerful chi. What is it about you that draws people into you to make them watch you every day?" I haven't figured it out, but I can tell you one thing: it's the mystery that makes it so alluring. What is
Yeah.
it about her? What is it that makes people watch her every day? I still haven't figured it out yet. But I can probably predict and say this, um, how honest I am, how vulnerable I am, and how I am willing to share bits and pieces of myself with the world. And that makes people comfortable to share bits and pieces with me because it's like you're talking to a friend. It's like you're having brunch or dinner with a friend. It's personable. And I've read this somewhere that when you are personable, when you are sharing your stories with people, they share their stories as well too. And that's why I tell my guests when they come here for an interview, or I don't even really consider them interviews, as more so like a conversation with an old friend. Uh, when you come in here, when we're gearing that spaceship up,
Yeah.
you get in that pilot seat. And then when it's my turn to drive, yes, I'm the head, I'm the captain or whatever, but we're going to rotate that seat. You
Yeah.
steer that ship in your direction because you're telling your story. And then I'll get back in the wheel and I'll take control. And then vice versa, back to back. It's like you're playing kickball, back to back to back.
Yeah.
You are real. What? You are real. You are real. You're sweet. You're beautiful, and you never make anyone feel uncomfortable as a guest. I try to make people feel. I try to make it as personable. I try to make it personable. I try to make it intimate because I've done interviews and I'll be like, oh my God, what is this person going to ask me? Shout outs to Marcos Luis and LaTroy Gardner. That interview will be dropping sometime next month. LaTroy Gardner, Stop, Look, and Listen. And then when I did the one with Marcos, Marcos asked me questions. I didn't have any clue what he was going to ask me. So I had Marcos, he's like, don't worry, I got you. And he took it from there. So he started asking me questions about my family, my upbringing, my childhood, all of those things that people wanted to know. And I share bits and pieces of that with people here on this platform. So it was profitable. Your interviewers are never messy. Your interviews are never messy. And I love your style. Thank you, King David. And again, I come from a place of wanting to know your story. You sit down and tell me what you want me to know, your story. Tell me what you want the people to know about you outside of the character, which is why I chose to interview Daryl here, because I see him as the villain on Talks with Myself, Maurice. But seeing the person outside of the character makes other people that actually watch the show see them outside of the character differently too. So it's no different than what Sherry does on her show. It's no different than what Jennifer Hudson does on her show, which is interview the star and find out this character is so complex. How do you play this character? And I do it in a way, again, that's that revolutionary stance of being different and daring to be different. That's one thing I can say that sets me aside from other hosts, because there's so many out here, from Conscious TV, my colleague Bubs the God, you've got Alvin Tit for Tat, this and that. My other colleague, Deshaun Stallings, my other brother and colleague, Sky Valentine, K Tubes, who was just in here, who's still here, my brother. Everybody has their way of their interviewing style, which makes it so personable. And me, I do it. Of course, we all do our research on the guests. And it shocks the guests sometimes if you go back and watch some of the other interviews, and they be like, how did you know this about me? How did I know these things about Daryl? I had to do my research. And of course, I'm a big fan of Talks with Myself. I watched the show. So I wouldn't know these things if I didn't do my research. Shock your guest. I had one guest he asked me, how did you know I have kids? How did you know I was a family man? He said, could you just pick that up? I said, baby, I'm like Olivia Pope. I know everything. Even when you don't think I'm watching, and I watch closely. I sit and I observe. That's what I told him in that interview.
Well, shout
But
out to
again,
you, because I was pleasantly shocked when you brought up the PBS interview. And shout out to PBS, because public broadcasting, we need them. So I'm happy to see Sesame Street found a new home at Netflix. Hopefully, the rest of
yeah,
those public broadcasting shows will find spaces that they can also live and reside and continue to pour into people. But to your point, yeah, like I when you hit me with the PBS question, I was like, oh, you actually do, like, more than just what I present on the show. So thank you for that, because again, awareness is one thing that we want to definitely bring to our community. So I appreciate you bringing that PBS question in regards to museums and art spaces, because a lot of people don't know my day job is working at a museum. They only know the character or the TV stuff that I do.
absolutely, always. And in these times, in this climate that we're living in, it is key and crucial and important, not just from the show Talks with Myself, the
Yeah,
subject matter,
yeah,
but also the what you do outside of Talks with Myself that is prevalent, and what we need to know, and how we can preserve Black history more than ever to make sure that our stories are told and they're not erased. Jamie Foxx said it best, and I'm gonna hit you guys with the final thought of the day. I'm gonna let Daryl give the final thought, and then I'll give my final thought before we close. Jamie Foxx said they can erase, but guess what? Black people, Black creators, we will replace, and we will continue to keep making history. So always remember that quote from Jamie Foxx, who is an Oscar winner, by the way. Outstanding job in Ray. And that was something that someone asked him when he came in, bulldozing, erasing DEI initiatives. We started to see brands cave to him, bend the knee to him. And this is what he said. That's exactly what Jamie Foxx said, which is they can erase, but guess what? We will always go back and make more history. So that's key.
I guess my word of the day or phrase of the day would be maintain and keep your peace. Like in the world of chaos, um, we do have to tap in sometimes, whether it be willingly or unwillingly. But while
Mhm.
we are tapped in and when we have to step away, continue to keep things in those in a circle that maintain your peace, so that you don't allow the craziness of the world to offset you. So maintain your peace. That'd be my phrase of the day. Keep your peace.
And I agree. Please protect your peace. For us as Black people, mental health is something we don't talk enough about in our community. And again, Talks with Myself covers that. Finding Me even was ahead of its time and started talking about that. The issue
Yeah.
of one of the characters having depression and bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
Jay, if you go back and watch it, you have to go back and check it out. It is on
Yes.
OMEProTV.com. Make sure you guys go and check it out. The final thought that I want to leave you guys with today, Fashion Dolls, is you are allowed to scream, you are allowed to cry, but do not give up. This is just a test. And me and my mother were having a conversation earlier about how the Bible talks about the battle of Armageddon.
Mhm.
Get your armor ready, not physically to go out there, but God is taking us through this for a reason. Y'all saw how that plantation burned down mysteriously?
Yeah.
There's a shift coming. We see
Yeah,
that shift that is happening. They ain't ready for it. But black people, we are quietly plotting the next move. And I must
yeah.
say, I love us for real. I love us for real. Keep doing what we are doing because they not gonna be ready for what's coming as far as this shift. That plantation was just the example. And it's gonna be more and more and more to come. We will resist, we will continue to keep fighting and speaking out. So before we let you go, Daryl, let everyone know where they can follow you. And of course, Talks with Myself, season 6 will be coming pretty soon. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Let everyone know where they can follow you. I had such an amazing time.
Likewise, I have enjoyed this. Definitely feel free to tap me or my castmates back at any given time, especially as season 6 happens. Maybe we can get back on and talk about some of the cool
Yes.
episodes that transpire as the season progresses. But yes, you can find me on pretty much all of my social platforms under my government name, God given name, Daryl Dwayne. So if you type in Daryl Dwayne on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, I should pop up. I am also, as I said earlier, going to be reprising my role as a character on the or characters in the production of the Colored Museum. So if you want to see me in person and you are in the New York, New Jersey area, please pull up. That's June 25th at the Newark Symphony Hall. I'll be in the play The Colored Museum. We'll be doing a one night only reprisal of that play run, show run that we did earlier this spring. And Talks to Myself season 6 is dropping soon. Be on the lookout. There are already previews out there. OmiProTV.com. Definitely go check them out to subscribe so you can see the uncensored version. What you see on YouTube is censored.
Yes.
So if you want to see us in our full shirtless glory, then I would say subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And again, we are working to get on a major platform, our television network. So we were doing a crowdfunding campaign not too long ago. I think you still can donate towards that. So if any of you are watching and you want to contribute, please reach out directly to Roger and or through the Omi Pro TV platform and make it happen. Because again, we are only because you all allow it to be. So thank you, thank you, thank you for watching, and thank you,
Absolutely.
Stevie. Thank you, Miss Stevie, for doing this. I appreciate you creating time and space for us. You literally interviewed majority of our cast, so I can't wait to see you reach Oprah Winfrey status because that's what we're aiming for.
Yes.
And yeah, seeing all the amazing things you do and produce and put out there. So continue to do what you're doing and continue to shine like the star that you are.
I definitely will. And thank you so much. I had such an amazing time, Daryl. And I would love to chat with y'all again. Hopefully, we can do a panel or something. So we'll talk to
Yes,
Roger about that and see what we can do.
yes, yes.
Definitely.
I'm all for it. Thank you all, and I hope to see you online. Follow me on Instagram.
All right,
Bye.
Fashion Dolls. Joining me tomorrow, we have Christian Barber. Make sure you guys tune in. See you then. Take care.